ESPN just saw all of their records broken involving the WNBA, including playoff games.
So 2.7 million people on average watched the Fever absolutely obliterate the Chicago Sky.
Caitlin Clark didn't just step onto the court against the Chicago Sky, she stepped into history. In just her 41st WNBA game, she did something that took Diana Taurasi 565 games to accomplish. And by the time the buzzer sounded, 11 records had been broken in one night. This wasn't just a win, this was a demolition, a warning shot, and Angel Reese, she was right in the middle of it. From viral hype to real-time domination, this game didn't just live up to the buzz, it shattered it. Clark put on a performance that had fans losing their minds, and players looking completely unprepared. From logo threes to emphatic blocks, she controlled the game like she was in a different league altogether. But here's the kicker, it wasn't just Clark. The entire Indiana Fever roster looked like they were built to destroy. So what actually happened out there? Why was Angel Reese so quiet? And how did this one game flip the WNBA on its head? Let's break it all down, because the numbers don't lie. The Fever didn't just dominate, they rewrote the rules of what's possible in women's basketball. Caitlin Clark came into her sophomore season with the weight of the world on her shoulders. 62 rookie year records, a fan base that treats her like a rock star, and critics just waiting for her to slip. Instead, she delivered a performance that left jaws on the floor. Clark dropped 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists in the season opener. That's a triple-double in Game 1, and not just any triple-double. This one made WNBA history. She became the fastest player ever to record 3 career triple-doubles, doing it in just 41 games. To put that in perspective, Diana Taurasi, one of the greatest to ever play the game, took 565 games to hit this milestone. Alyssa Thomas, still grinding after over 200 games. Caitlin did it in less than 1 full season. But it wasn't just the numbers, it was how she got them. She opened the game with a logo 3 that barely touched the net. Then came the thread-the-needle passes, the over-the-top dimes to Boston, and wait for it, 4 blocks. More than she ever had in a single college or pro game. She was flying around the court, snatching rebounds from taller players, blocking shots like she was 6'4", and threading passes into windows that shouldn't have existed. The box score was ridiculous, but the eye test even crazier. She looked unstoppable, and as the fourth quarter ticked down, the crowd knew what was coming. Clark was hunting history. 1 more rebound, 1 more assist, and then it happened. A perfect pass to Boston. Swish, assist number 10. Then moments later, she grabbed that final board, and the arena erupted. Caitlin Clark had just recorded the first 20-10-10 triple-double ever in a day season opener. She wasn't just back. She was better, sharper, hungrier, and more dangerous than ever before. But that was just the start of what went down that night. While Caitlin Clark was dropping dimes and draining logo 3s, Aaliyah Boston was owning the paint. All week, the hype centered around Angel Reese. The talk, the tweets, the pregame interviews. Reese made it clear she was coming for Boston. She said she was going to dominate the glass, control the paint, send a message. But when the game tipped off, that message got sent right back. Boston didn't just respond. She put on a defensive clinic that left Angel Reese stunned. 5 blocks, 13 rebounds, 19 points, and a level of control down low that turned the Sky's offense into a horror show. Every time Reese tried to go up for a shot, Boston was right there, timing her jumps perfectly, forcing tough angles, swatting shots into the stands like it was nothing. It wasn't just flashy, it was surgical. By the time it was over, Boston had moved up to 6th in Fever history for blocks and 8th for rebounds in just her 3rd season. Let that sink. And this wasn't a role player doing her job. This was a franchise cornerstone showing the league exactly why Indiana drafted her to be the future of their front court. And here's the part nobody saw coming. Boston didn't just dominate on, defense. She and Clark, they were in sync. Clark kept finding her for easy buckets, and Boston kept protecting the rim like her life depended on it. The chemistry was instant. The impact was undeniable. Meanwhile, Angel Reese, she finished with 17 rebounds, sure, but she shot 5 for 14 from the field. Her offensive game vanished. She came in talking, but Boston let her game do the talking. And that game spoke volumes. But even with Clark setting records and Boston dominating the paint, there was still one moment that almost slipped under the radar. A milestone that was 15 years in the making. While fans were locked in on Clark's triple-double and Boston's block party, something legendary was unfolding just beneath the spotlight. Dewana Bonner, a 15-year WNBA veteran, walked into this game needing just 7 points to pass a eye. Titan of the sport, Tina Thompson and become the third all-time leading scorer in league history. And she did it, right there in a Fever jersey in her very first game with the team. Think about that. Bonner has been balling since 2009, two-time champion, six-time All-Star. The kind of player who doesn't just put up numbers, she defines eras. Yet even after all those years, thousands of buckets, and a career that's already Hall of Fame worthy, she walked into this game still hungry. And when the moment came, she delivered. Late in the fourth, Bonner stepped to the line. Swish, tied the record. Swish again. And 7,489 career points later, she stood alone at number 3 all time. The arena exploded. It wasn't just a milestone. It was a moment of respect. From her teammates, from the fans, from the league. Even with Caitlin Clark fever sweeping the nation, Bonner's greatness couldn't be ignored. But here's what makes it even more powerful. Bonner didn't just join the Fever to chase records. She came to lead. She's not padding stats on a rebuilding squad. She's mentoring rising stars like Clark, Boston, Mitchell, and Lexi Hull. Her voice is the loudest in the locker room. And when she talks, the whole team listens. This is exactly the kind of player that takes a good team and turns them into champions. Bonner's rise into the WNBA's elite scoring tier wasn't just a personal victory. It was a sign that the Fever aren't just stacking talent, they're stacking legacy. But if that wasn't enough, what happened next sealed it. This game wasn't just historic for one player. It turned into one of the most record-breaking nights in WNBA history. 1 record-breaking performance is impressive. 2, incredible. But 11? What the Indiana Fever did against the Chicago Sky wasn't just dominant, it was historic. This wasn't a game. It was a full-blown rewriting of the WNBA record books. Let's break it down. Caitlin Clark became the fastest player in history to reach 3 triple-doubles, 41 games. That alone would have made headlines for a week. But then Aaliyah Boston and Clark combined for 9 blocks, the most ever by a point guard center duo in a season opener. 9 blocks, add Bonner becoming the 3rd all-time leading scorer. And this night was already stacking up to be something legendary, but the records kept falling. The Fever's 35-point win, a 93-58 blowout, was the 2nd largest margin of victory in Indiana's franchise history. And the way they did it, even more unreal. They scored with efficiency, they passed with precision, they locked down on defense like their season was on the line, even though it was just game 1. Here's the part that should send chills down. Every coach in the league, the Fever didn't just win, they controlled every inch of the game, every quarter, every possession. It looked like they were 2 steps ahead of the Sky from tip-off to final buzzer. This wasn't a fluke, this wasn't luck, this was a warning that Indiana has found its identity. And it's built around speed, strength, skill, and chemistry. And it came at the expense of someone who thought she was ready to shine under the bright lights. All week long, the energy was building. Angel Reese had made it clear. This matchup against Aaliyah Boston was personal. She'd circled this game, posted on social, smiled in interviews. She was ready to make a statement. But when the lights came on and the ball went up, that statement got shut down. Reese was supposed to own the paint. Instead, she got owned. Aaliyah Boston didn't just win the matchup, she dominated it. Time and time again, Reese tried to back her down, rise up for a hook, or crash the lane, and Boston met her at the summit. The result? A brutal 5 for 14 shooting night for Reese, her worst offensive showing in months. Sure, she pulled down 17 rebounds, which padded the box score, but that stat alone doesn't tell the truth. Not when you're getting blocked, contested, and outplayed on the biggest stage of your early pro career. And it wasn't just Boston. The Fever were rotating, helping, closing lanes, making every single look difficult. Reese had no rhythm, no flow, just frustration. This wasn't a rookie meltdown. It was a cold reality check. Because in the WNBA, hype doesn't matter if you can't execute. And on this night, the only players executing were wearing Indiana jerseys. Reese's body language said it all. Late in the game, her energy dropped. The fire was gone. She looked like someone who just realized this league hits different, and it does. Especially when you're going up against players like Boston, who don't talk much, but make sure you feel every word with their game. This matchup was hyped as the next big rivalry. But in round 1, it wasn't even close. And while Reese struggled to find her footing, something far more dangerous was unfolding right in front of her. Because the connection between Clark and Boston, that's what should terrify the rest of the league. This is the part no one expected to click so fast. The Caitlin Clark-Aaliyah Boston connection wasn't supposed to hit this level in game 1. Not yet. Not this soon. But what we saw against Chicago? That was elite level chemistry. Clark and Boston played like they'd been teammates for years, not months. Their timing was flawless. Their instincts synced. And the way they read each other on both ends of the floor, terrifying. Clark would thread a bounce pass between defenders without even looking, and Boston was already in position, ready to finish. Boston would slide over to help defensively, and Clark would rotate instantly, picking up the pass and turning it into transition offense. They were moving like one brain in two bodies. Together, they didn't just combine for 9 blocks, they controlled the flow of the game from start to finish. That block stat alone is unheard of. A point guard and a center teaming up for a total usually reserved for front court duos built like twin towers? That's not just rare, that's game-breaking. This wasn't some highlight reel sequence, it was consistent, quarter after quarter. Their pick and rolls were sharp, their defensive switches were seamless, and their communication? Constant. You could feel it. The way Clark trusted Boston with the rock, the way Boston trusted Clark to set the pace. That kind of synergy doesn't just happen overnight, but somehow it did. And here's the scary part. This is just the beginning. They're both under 25, both still improving, both with massive ceilings. If this is what they look like in Game 1 of Year 2, just imagine what they'll look like in the playoffs, or 3 seasons from now. The WNBA hasn't seen a guard-center combo like this since its early days, but this one's built different. Because when your point guard is rewriting offensive records and your center is anchoring a top-tier defense, that's not a 1-2 punch. That's the foundation of a dynasty. And when you look at the pieces around them, you start to realize this isn't just a good team. It's something far more dangerous. What we just witnessed wasn't a fluke. It wasn't luck. And it sure wasn't just a hot start. It was the beginning of a dynasty in real time. The Indiana Fever aren't just young and talented. They're balanced, built, and already playing like a seasoned playoff squad. Let's look at the roster. You've got Caitlin Clark, a sophomore who's already rewriting the WNBA record books like it's her personal journal. You've got Aaliyah Boston, a third-year big who's dominating the paint and climbing the franchise all-time lists like she's been here a decade. Add Dewana Bonner, who just became the 3rd highest scorer in league history and brings championship DNA to a locker room full of rising stars. And it doesn't stop there. Kelsey Mitchell is entering her prime with a deadly jumper and deep range. Lexi Hull is defending like a specialist. Brianna Turner, Sydney Colson, and Nalissa Smith provide even more depth, length, and experience. Oh, and let's not forget Sophie Cunningham, the gritty two-way wing who brings fire and fight to every possession. This isn't just a team that can win. It's a team that's ready to dominate. They've got spacing, defense, veteran leadership, youth, chemistry, and a chip on their shoulder from all the years people wrote them off. And what really separates them? Execution. The Fever aren't just playing with effort. They're playing with intent. They're already executing like contenders, rotating on defense, finding the open shooter, moving off the ball, collapsing at the rim. These are the things you expect from seasoned title teams, not from a young core that just came together. That's what makes it so dangerous. They're not even close to their ceiling, and they're already blowing teams out by 35 points. This isn't hype anymore. This is happening. And if you're watching closely, you can feel it. The same way you felt it when the early 2000s Sparks were forming, or the Dawn Staley-era South Carolina Gamecocks, or yes, even those early 90s Bulls before their first ring. Something big is forming in Indiana. And now, the rest of the league has one terrifying question to answer. What the Indiana Fever did to the Chicago Sky wasn't just impressive. It wasn't just dominant. It was a line in the sand. They didn't squeak out a win. They didn't need a buzzer beater or a miracle run. They obliterated a rival by 35 points, the second largest margin in franchise history. 11 records broken in one night. One player becomes the fastest in league history to record 3 triple-doubles. Another becomes the 3rd all-time leading. Scorer a third shuts down one of the most hyped rookies in the country with a defensive clinic, and the rest of the roster clicking like they've been together for years. You don't see this in Game 1. You don't see this from a team with this much youth. But the Fever, they're not waiting. They're not easing into the season. They've arrived, and they're for real. This team doesn't just have stars. It has chemistry. It doesn't just have potential. It has execution. And most importantly, it has fire. Caitlin Clark isn't just a star. She's a superstar. Boston isn't just a solid big. She's the anchor of a championship defense. And Bonner, she's the kind of veteran that changes everything, on the court and off. And while other teams are still figuring out their rotations, Indiana already looks like they've been in playoff form for months. This isn't a one-night story. This is a shift in the WNBA power structure. The Fever didn't just win. They sent a message to the entire league. We're here, and we're not going anywhere. So the only question left is this. If Indiana can break 11 records in Game 1, how many more will they shatter before this season's over? Because the Fever aren't just heating up, they're about to set the league on fire. If you're rocking with Indiana, drop a comment below that says I've got the Fever, and let's see how deep this fan base really goes. Smash that like button if you believe Caitlin Clark is already changing the league, and subscribe with notifications on so you never miss another moment of this historic run. Because if this was game 1, just imagine what's coming next.